Good evening. It's Wednesday, July 29th, and here we are again with Duo Demonology. My name's Elise Giamacco Carlson. I'm welcoming you here to our discussion forum. Tonight's discussion will be how to get rid of a demon. Is such even possible? So I think you'll want to stick around for this one. Seems everybody knows what a demon is or what the word connotes. It's a malevolent entity, a fallen angel, a spirit with a bad attitude. This is a concept which pervades every culture and I'm sure precedes recorded history. So we all know what it's supposed to be. What seems rather ambiguous is how does one dispense with it? Are there any tried and true remedies for demonic infestation? And can the remedies of a millennium ago and in faraway regions hold any relevance for us today? Do we even need to concern ourselves with those nebulous beings that our ancestors may have dreaded? You're invited to stay tuned and hear something about how this concern has been dealt with. You don't want to miss on cleaning out that demon in your closet. Please feel welcome to contribute your own questions and comments, which will serve to make our program all the more informative. And it's my pleasure, once again, to introduce the two guys who put the duo in Duo Demonology, noted demonologist Carl Johnson and theologian James Annitto.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Carl.
Hello there. Good to see you here.
Definitely good to
You
see.
made
It's
it,
like
yeah.
we just appeared, like suddenly.
Out of the ether and all that. And thank you, Elise.
Definitely great,
But,
great as always.
Yeah, that stellar introduction to our
Definitely.
show. What are we going to talk about tonight? She said something about how to get rid of a demon.
I know, definitely. I think that was actually a question put in one of our listeners or viewers.
Because we always invite our listeners to contribute ideas
Definitely.
for questions, and we're following through on that.
Definitely. So yeah, they picked a topic that I think we won't be able to necessarily give you the full definite answer by the end of this 1
I
hour
don't think
program.
people come here for answers. I think
No.
they come here for, I hope they're not.
Yeah.
They come here for discussion.
Yes.
An exchange of ideas.
And that's what the show's about. You know, it's not a lecture. It's a discussion to help kind of inebriate
Yeah.
the fact that there are many different theories, different opinions, and beliefs out there. And we're going to come at every different angle when it comes to how can you get rid of a demon.
Well, yeah, demonology is a multifaceted topic anyway.
Very much so.
I think there's a slight misconception about demonologists, that they are the remedy, that they are going to come to your house and clean out that demon. Well, we can try, we can help. you know.
Definitely. But there are specialists out there that sometimes we even seek out
Yes, we do. We
that
consult
involve
people.
in psychotherapy or within the field of exorcism, within that ministry.
Right.
So there are people that we, of course, go to. Like we always talk about how we're their applicable study
Yeah.
of this field of demonology.
Right. I mean, you can be a demonologist and study the
Study.
lore, the lore and cultural traditions of wicked spirits, but an applied demonologist is someone who will go out there into the field and go to perhaps people's
document.
homes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
document, try to record, because it's all about education, really.
It is.
As far as, like dispelling a demon, we'll see.
And
What can that
there's
be?
there's difference between, of course, in that same format is, of course, there's people that are theoretical, that they'll look at theory, and or there's people that are practical and they'll do it through application instead of thinking about it, what could occur. So there's those differences, and we do look at a lot of theory, but also Carl and I are very practical people,
Yes.
and we like to see that there has to be an application for there to be something that we can agree on to be fact. And one of the things about that is about fact is demons are just a theory. There's multiple different interpretations, as we've talked about many times throughout these shows, of what a demon can be, where it's originated through in civilization or belief. So with that being said, should we start from how to get rid of a demon in the early sense? Because in reality, the ideologies of exorcism or early mantra of psychotherapy before they even
I
knew,
like the way you put that.
before they knew about these
Before it was
things.
called psychotherapy,
Therapy.
Well, that was, connotated with demon expulsion,
It
like
was.
psychotherapy and encounter sessions was trying to get the evil spirit out of you.
Yeah, definitely.
Really.
It's really what prevalent during Middle Eastern time. That it was it was just a lot of things misunderstood back then. You know, a lot of people thought to be possessed by a demonic entity because they were
Well, that provided an
misunderstandings.
answer. You know, if somebody starts, you know, being seemingly taken over by an invading personality, you know, something malevolent, what's the best answer before psychotherapy? You know, it was that there's some spirit disrupting, you know, some evil spirits trying to take over the person. And that made sense at the time. It can make sense now.
Yeah. I think, not to stray too far off from where we should start, I think that if you look at a lot of ancient cultures, right? Mesopotamia.
Yeah, how far back do we want to go?
Sumerians.
I always
early
think of ancient Sumer and, you know, the
Yeah.
Mesopotamia region
Yeah.
when I think of the cradle of civilization.
Most people do.
There were pockets all around, but as far as what we can, you know, they had writing, they had reading.
As far as we
what
can go back,
documented. I don't think we can say much about the Neanderthals.
No, well,
Well, the Cro-Magnons.
well, we do have some. If you look at, of course, this is going more towards Eastern culture. Like if you look at Shintoism,
Yes.
if you look at those, like which branch from like Hinduism and Buddhism, which branch from animism,
Yeah, and
you can
Shinto,
you can see a lot of animistic cave paintings within those cultures there. Like so, there are things that predate the cradle civilization, like Sumer and Mesopotamia, but those animistic interpretations are very loose.
Well,
like everything, like everything's energy, like so everything's life.
we can deduce that human beings had a form of faith and religion, a belief in a higher power, going back to these very ancient peoples. We have no written language from them. Like I was saying, the classic example, the Neanderthals. They buried their dead. They're the first culture, the first peoples to actually that we know of to bury their dead, and they bury them ceremonially. They were buried with artifacts, you know, beads and hunting implements. You know, the Neanderthals did that, and so they must have had some belief that they were sending these people off to another spiritual realm, another world, the happy hunting ground, you might say. But they were sending their revered ones off to something, almost as if casting them out in a ship. They buried them with implements and what to us are artifacts, precious items.
And a lot of those rituals throughout time, early civilizations adapted to where sometimes there were items or certain ways for the ritual to be done so that there was not something negative within the ideas of dualism, where something negative could not be portrayed to that person, like Norse mythology. I don't know if specifically the reason that they burnt their body, but and some beliefs is that, you know, a lot of cultures burnt the body because that they couldn't be possessed by an evil spirit in death. You know, once they
and that would free the spirit from any boundary, any lingering ties to the body. If the body is expiated, you know, if it's reduced to ashes and elements, then it's not going to hold them back. It's not going to retard their progress in the afterlife.
Yeah, and people will say, how is this demonic? Well, in technicality, vampires can be considered demonic because they are a dead person that has negative intent most of the time,
I've
right?
heard about them, yeah.
Right? But look at what they did to how to get rid of a demon in people that like Mercy Round, died of tuberculosis.
A little more recent,
right?
yeah.
A little bit more recent.
But again, you get into that principle, it provided an answer, you know. The premise of a vampire, you know, like, we don't know, we've got to try anything. You know, maybe it's just a disease, but we've got to try this remedy, you know, and that made sense. And it was even an attempted inoculation where, you know, the ashes from her heart,
I know, it's crazy.
Heart were made into a poultice, or they were made into an elixir and given to her brother Edwin, who had also contracted the wasting sickness, the tuberculosis,
which they didn't
the
know at that point in
vampire
time,
germ, and of course it didn't help because a month later he succumbed, but it was an attempt at an inoculation. It made sense to them at the time in their desperation.
And that story reflects upon how to get rid of a demon, right? There has been so many interpretations, so many different ways on how people have perceived to get rid of this mysterious force.
Yeah, if it's coming to your life and it's disrupting your life and your household, there's got to be a way to get rid of it. If it came in, it's got to go out.
Yeah, and I think in my opinion, you know, and I think this is where we'll start getting in a slippery slope of people. I think where duodemonology hopefully helps is where we help all of these misconceptions, because it is theory, but there also are pragmatic ways of looking at things within this field.
Even demons?
Even demons.
Oh.
So I want to get down the slippery slope of.
Let's slide down it.
Let's get this slide down.
It's getting slippery in here, dude. Let's do it.
So I really tend to look at mind over matter. I tend to believe that demons do exist, a rarity, and in their form, like you said, they are quasi-particle or quasi-matter. They are a matter of some form.
Yeah, they are something.
They are
It's
something.
very generalized very much. They're
But
something.
I definitely believe in how to get rid of a demon is the power of mind over matter, free will, willpower, faith. But some would say, and this is where the counter argument I think where Carl and I can discuss is mind over mind.
Mind over mind. I think a start is to make it uncomfortable for the demon. The demon doesn't want to stick around in that environment.
Yes.
So, and that's where you get burning of sage. You get physical implements, you know,
Ways
like
of doing
holy
things.
water and
Yeah.
all that. Make it so unpleasant that the demon just isn't going to stay around.
Yeah.
And well, I could talk about a little bit about a principle called transference.
Transference. Yeah.
Because when a demon is driven out, it has no resting place, so it's going to seek a refuge. It'll go to somebody else. That may sound fantastical, but I've actually experienced that during an expulsion. The demon went for it. It actually tried to enter me. Of that, I am convinced. Whatever its substance was, I don't know. But it was during an expulsion, like a less structured form of exorcism, and I felt this onrush of terrible emotion. It was strong. I could actually analyze it. Like, what is this? This isn't me. It was almost like I was on a drug, but of course I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I just concentrated on my own sense of self. I said, no, it's interesting what's happening, but I'm not going to jump through the window. Like I felt an urge to do. So I just know this is not me. I don't know what it is, but it can leave me. So I was, in that sense, too strong for it. Pulled out of me. I felt that like hands in the back of my head, in the Mons area of the brain. I felt that. Boom. And went into a young lady in the next room. She fell to the floor and started screaming, pulling her hair. So I think that was the transference there.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree. And I want to use a term. It's kind of funny. It's not meant to be funny in a way, but countertransference. Which
Now you're confusing. Countertransference.
So countertransference, where transference would be a mind over matter thing, like through this process, if you do this expulsion over somebody through the a rite of exorcism or some rite of ritual to remove this spirit, there is that ability of transference because you are involved with that individual through faith.
It doesn't always seem to involve a ceremony.
Sometimes it does.
Casting it out.
But a countertransference are for people like psychotherapists to deal with people that are very similar in nature to possession. People like schizophrenia, who hallucinate, who have motor function disabilities, that feel like they hear voices, and can also improperly involve a shared hallucination with people involved.
That's an interesting
within their schizophrenia
principle too.
But-
shared hallucination.
But countertransference is basically when the therapist emotionally gets involved with that client or the person that they're dealing with that might be affected by this ailment, this mental illness, or maybe truthfully, in fact, possession. But countertransference is when the psychotherapist starts either having a disdain for the person. And of course, a therapist is supposed to be a neutral mindset.
They're supposed to be very clinical, very detached, very objective in their approach.
And
But you're
so
saying sometimes that gets
countertransference, it gets violated where they have a disdain for that person or the things going on. They start taking on the emotions of that person, and it starts affecting to them.
That is fascinating.
Doesn't that kind of sound like if you deal with a demonic possession case, if you deal with it, you can get affected from it? So it always makes me wonder, and there's some statistics I want to throw out there. These are basically loose because they're from a few years ago. I try to find more modern statistics. One of them is 2016, where 44% of people believe in ghosts and demons in America. 2.9 billion people believe in Christianity. 1.9 billion people believe in Judaism, and I think it's very similar with Islam. Guess what? All those religions have a concept of a demon.
They do, and they have their diverse names for those.
And guess what? Another statistic that most people don't know, and those are larger numbers, but 1 in 7 people in the world have either one mental or substance abuse issue 1 in 7 people. That's a lot. That's 1 billion people in the world that have issues. So how do we know sometimes when we go into people's houses to get rid of a demon, they're not one of those 1 in 7 people, or somebody that has a neurological issue like alien hand syndrome, where their emotion, even though they're not wanting to grab that cup, they grab that cup, even though very rare. It can happen to people that have dealt with trauma or have dealt with cancer. So how do we get rid of a demon if in fact it's not a demon? Like, I think we can, and even with the demon, I think it's a very similar route of how you approach the situation. I do believe a higher power exists, like a God, but I think in some form or fashion, faith's powerful in both of those, regardless if it's a mental or substance ailment that you're trying to get over, or trying to fight, or this in fact spiritual force that
that's where
maybe does exist.
That's where it becomes tricky to be a demonologist, because if you're intervening, at a certain point you have to abdicate your objectivity and you have to assume the role of witch doctor. You may not know what really is the source of the trouble for the person, but sometimes we have to act as though, and it was genuine, it's not opposed, but we have to act in that propensity that we can clear out the demon. You know, we are vested with some kind of knowledge and authority, and we are going to tell that spirit to leave.
Yeah, because even desperation can bring a demon, even best of men. We have to forget. We can't forget about that desperation. Even if you are the bestest of person, it couldn't bring a demon upon you. Is it something that is through occultism, or is it through something that you want?
Well, when the desperation drives over, it overrides your rationality. Which does happen.
It does, very much so. I think one of the things I want to discuss, and not to pinpoint anybody, especially if this person is listening, but I had a recent case question that come up to me.
Oh, what you got?
Working on this, and this is a prime example. I don't think this woman's crazy at all.
But I know what you mean.
I definitely want to use it as a case example, because how to get rid of demon, everybody thinks it's like magic. We're Aleister Crowley, we're going to come and do a ritual, and it's going to be gone.
You say Aleister Crowley.
Through the power of intention.
Yes.
I'm just saying, but everybody thinks there's some notion of clicking the fingers, doing the spirit fingers, and be gone, demon, and it's gone.
Well, that can convince somebody that we're actually doing some kind of magic or something.
Well, yeah, it's psychotherapy.
Yeah, but that's usually the effect is going to be, the beneficial effect is going to be short-lived, because now it's back,
But so, Carl, would you agree in this that every form, even in a non-spiritual sense, or even a spiritual sense, I should say, that there's psychotherapy involved? Do you believe that, and this is my true belief, and we can of course dig into this, is that until the person is ready to get over that ailment, they're not going to get over it. It's like an addiction. We call it intervention for a reason. You're intervening into a situation, but sometimes, like in this case document, this person's being touched, sexually touched, right?
Yeah.
And one of the questions I asked, and so and this is not wrong to say yes to this. Do you like it? Are you pleased from it? And the answer was,
well, if they're seeking your help, then you are privileged to ask certain questions.
Yeah, but the answer was yes. So if you want it gone, but you're getting pleasure from and excitement from when you're getting touched, do you really want it gone?
Well, it's desirable and yet not. It's vicarious. It's something, but it's a temptation because it's wicked. It's a temptation. This spirit is coming into invading my life. But I have to give in.
But some people come intertwined in it. Some people like it, even though they want it gone.
Well, at that stage,
it becomes a part of their life. Sometimes because they become of the abandonment that they pull away from people, even in a schizophrenic situation.
What's come up in their past,
in a psychotic situation, through trauma, like even if it's not a demon, like they're alone, their depressive anxiety self draws back from people.
At that stage, it becomes inextricably intermeshed with the invading presence. Like that. It's tough to sever that.
Yeah.
And by the way, once someone is convinced that they can be demonically possessed or oppressed, it's a very hard thing to shake because it's always in the back of your mind.
I allowed it.
Yeah, with every successive misfortune or bad turn, did the demon do that to me? Oh, I feel that like it wants to come through. It's speaking to me now. very hard to disassociate from that.
Yeah, and
It can be, pushed aside, but it takes time. It's very difficult. Once somebody's convinced of that they are possessed.
they are possessed in their mind. Yeah, that's why, like I said,
And it's genuine at that stage.
is it mind over mind at that point? Because it,
Mind over mind, like you said.
how can you get over a spiritual road bump if you're not willing to get rid of it yourself? So how to get rid of a demon in some form or fashion, I can say in this form is that Carl and I act as a crutch. So we are the applicable demonologists, right? We come in, observe, we observe a case, we document it. And in my situation as a deacon of the United States Catholic Church, I would present it to the Council of Bishops, and then a bishop would send one of the exorcists out that are part of our church, part of the Catholic Church. We petition them through these case files. They went through a psychiatric evaluation.
Yeah.
They went to a physician. They went through a questionnaire. And they seem to have their story intact throughout many different questioning processes, either physically, through audibly, or through email. And they were able to pass all these with flying colors. Modern science and modern medicine cannot
which aren't perfect in themselves.
They're not
limited,
perfect, but they are more practical.
You're taking that what you call the pragmatic approach. You have to
Pragmatic.
exhaust those possibilities as to our best of our abilities.
But I think also though is there's those steps on how to get rid of a demon, because you have to go through those steps, because nobody wants to hear that they have a mental illness. And unfortunately, it is a hard thing. But anytime that anybody comes to me, and I've learned this throughout time, I was hyper gullible back then. I won't lie. I was hyper gullible. I was more in tune to maybe believing that there was something demonic at play or something negative.
Well, that's always the temptation to jump to that. If we're into that field, like we're going to say, we're waiting for the evidence of a demonic presence.
But I started to realize that in the same form of fashion that I was hyper gullible, so weren't the people that I were helping. And I started realizing these traumatic experiences they dealt with, these things that would still follow them to this day, even through the trauma that I dealt with that got me into this field.
And what about
I've seen those echoes.
The corroboration where then the religious picture falls off the wall on cue, and the room gets very dark. And you feel that presence come in. That's like, well, how can you say it's not a demon? Sometimes those things manifest to support the premise of a demon.
Of course,
it produces.
But those are very rare, though. And in the same inclusion, we're talking about medieval times.
Medieval times. Yeah.
Medieval times where demonology was prevalent, where it was pretty much
always taken quite seriously. Like our mission with duodemonology is to legitimize demonology as a field of study
and escape away from those misunderstandings from medieval times.
Bring it out of the closet into the light, clear away the cobwebs. I don't think it will ever be totally like a psychosomatic thing.
No, definitely. But I think it could
be viewed as such.
Well, theology is not viewed as a science, but I truly believe it is. I think it's the science of God. Like scientists have not been able to disprove the idea or ability of God, and science and theologians haven't disproven that science does not exist. A lot of theologians are very scientific in approach of how they view God. But people don't understand that because of misconceptions. Everybody thinks a theologian is like, everybody thinks a theologian's theoretical. They are in some sense, but we could be very pragmatic. We can say that God can exist because even though these physics exist and this gravitational magnetism, all these things exist within human biology or whichever.
You can present a very cogent argument for the existence of God.
But so can't you with demons, though?
Claim that,
with demons too, because
you can go either way with that.
I always laugh, right? And this has a lot to do with this. If you don't believe in God, how can you believe in spirits and demons?
Well,
right?
Yeah,
I hear that argument. I don't believe in God, but I believe in demons and spirits.
You're right. Yeah, but it's
it has a lot to do with it. So how can, if you're in that sense of helping that individual?
Conversely, I have talked to people, even like on the job and not long ago, people who did believe in God but do not believe in any kind of ghost or spirits or anything. That's not possible. It's all delusional. Like you want to believe it, so you look.
Every spirit you talk to is a demon.
Say, well, are you a creationist? What do you mean? Do you believe that God clapped his almighty hands and the universe came into existence. Well, of course, yeah, you got to believe that. So people have to evaluate and decide what they're going to believe, you know, because you get some real discrepancies out there.
And I think when you go into rid of a demon,
Well,
we have to understand what interpretation of a demon it is, because in the same sense, we use the word demon, we think of it, of course, this winged horned creature, but in fact, a demon can also be inner demon, something that they struggle with. And
I have a few of those.
It's those interpretations that they come out with, and they hide in the fact that they are dealing with the supernatural force. It's a charade because they really need help from the trauma that they're dealing with, and they're calling beckoning for help, but they use that as a facade, and a lot of people cling on to that and give these people what they want to hear and say that they're dealing with a demon, and this is the worst issue.
Who would really do that? Bob Larson. Excuse me. Bob Larson.
I heard you. I think everybody. I don't talk and judge about many people, but
Bob
Larson,
I didn't judge. I didn't pronounce any judgment. I said
but
who would support the premise of all supernatural.
There was there was a duo actually. Funny enough, so they weren't called Duo Demonology, but there was a duo back in the day. I don't know if you remember them. At least definitely would not know them, but they were called the Demon Doctors. And they would, for a nice lovely fee of $1,500, they would call you and get rid of your demons. So people are very gullible. People are very gullible.
They might have started out sincere, but didn't
I don't think they ever started sincere. When you call yourself the Demon Doctors,
once they started, they started turning a buck.
Like we call ourselves Duo Demonology for the fact that we are two demonologists that are not, I shouldn't say use the word infatuated, but we very much like the study of demonology and very entwined with the many different concepts.
Fortunately, we're totally sincere.
But but we also, in that same sense, don't charge $1,500. We do our work for free. You know, we do a podcast. Of discussion because we want people to
it's a
learn.
fascinating series of topics.
And people think that getting rid of demons is as easy, or as calling through Skype and saying, "Let me see your house." Oh, I sense a demon in that corner. I sense a demon over there.
Imagine if somebody just tuned in right and then sees you doing it.
Could you imagine?
I sense the demon in the corner. Who are these guys?
But not to sound bad, like very intrusive on other people's ability to approach and things, but unfortunately, when you do that, even if it is maybe really the spiritual sense of a demon, spirit possession, or demonic possession, you're still enabling something that you should not enable, right?
Right. Now our topic is how to get rid of a demon. Let's talk a little bit about methodology.
Okay.
Well, everybody thinks exorcism, you know, drive out the spirit, and as you know, in the Catholic sense, but exorcism, of course, has been in all cultures.
Yeah.
You know,
very much so, but in different formats. Yeah,
but we think exorcist, you know, an exorcism to drive out, to ceremonially command the spirit to leave, you know, assuming the premise that it is a real supernatural demon. Now we allow for that possibility, but we also say this is a psychological malady. You know, I've never run into a person with demonic problems that did not have some unresolved conflict or trauma in their past. It just goes hand in hand.
It does.
You know, that doesn't make it any less real. It's just we try to look for the origins. You know, the more we understand, the more knowledge we have about the case, then the more we can be of assistance.
Yeah, and somebody that is, I know I bring them up all the time, but it's heavily needs to be used because Hippocrates is a very central part of medicine, especially when you go to school to become a doctor.
Yes, it's still relevant.
It's still relevant, even though how old it is. Hippocrates, who used,
I think it's 2,400,
something like that. Yeah. Hippocrates performed exorcisms as psychotherapy, right? But in that same sense, is that an exorcism, even though through the Catholic way, is a little bit more aggressive and forms of chanting and ritual of removing this force, there's also a play of faith, and faith is a component of the mind. So regardless, even if it is spiritual or a mental thing, where you say we have to get to the point of where it is their origin, sometimes that origin's not spiritual, but you can still do the same process because it's that faith, it's empowering this person that they can get over this ailment, this spiritual parasite, even though it's something parasitical in a different way. It's something that's eating away at them.
But isn't the pageantry, if you will, essential to the effectiveness of an exorcism? I mean, the priest is in a very somber, as clerics, very somber garb, and there's an air of solemnity surrounding the whole experience.
Yeah.
The priest and an acolyte are dispensed to remedy this, and they come with it, and there's a lot of apprehension.
Well, yeah.
And there are prayers that are offered, and it is a ceremony.
Yes.
I think that gives it power.
And Mass is involved, the liturgy of the Eucharist is involved, and the liturgy of the Word's involved as well, especially in a Catholic sense. So it's very powerful. It is, and it has a lot of, if you look at New Thought, like the laws of attraction, it has a lot of positive repercussions to it. You're coming with this very dark, negative place that is succumbed supposedly by this demonic force that is oppressing and then possessing this individual.
But you are not authorized to perform an exorcism.
I'm not.
Suppose you found yourself, I can't think of a premise to support it, but suppose you found yourself in an emergency situation and somebody gets taken over by a demon, you haven't had a chance to evaluate it, or much less call in somebody else.
Like a psychiatrist to look and evaluate the situation.
Would you feel moved to address that, or just stand back?
Well, I do believe by through the catechisms and through the bishop law and all that stuff like that, that in an emergency situation, if I am at a place documenting and observing these people and doing what I have to do to get a case file and assessment to these people, usually before I physically get involved, a psychological evaluation will be done first, especially if they're claiming possession.
Well, you'd probably never run into anything like that anyway.
I haven't, but if I did come across something like that, which I kind of had before involved in the Catholic Church, when I was a deliverance minister through the Church of Christ, where I didn't need as much assessment, I was not more gullible, but I cut through processes faster, and I think that maybe was wrong of me to do so, and I was very wrong in some circumstances and made mistakes, but I learned from them. But if I was in a situation that the person wasn't assessed and they went in this trance-like state, either through act channeling or demonic possession, then I would probably perform a deliverance on the individual in an emergency sense, because even in a sense, if it was a psychotic breakdown, you either call 911 and try to get help there ASAP, or you try to intervene and hopefully there's a medic involved.
The person is convinced they're possessed. I don't think you'd be doing any harm
by
casting out the spirit.
But usually, so I truly, and that's not all the time that I go on a case and there's somebody with the EMT background, but in a case where maybe there is somebody possessed, I would have specifically somebody of an EMT background there. Because, just in case
it's nice to have a medical professional on hand. It's nice to have a psychological,
But you
don't.
I would definitely emergency. I would definitely do
something. And a cleric
something
like yourself.
I would definitely do something in emergency. I would. You would have to. What would you do, especially if they've not come out that transient state? If they didn't come out of that transient possession, you can't just stare at them and hope it's going to end. You have to do something. You have to take command.
Did you see that movie, The Conjuring?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Well, sometimes there's an emergency situation. You just have to address it.
Yeah,
what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, most definitely. I don't disagree with that, but you just have to be careful though, because okay, so I hate to use this as a counter argument, but what happens? And this is where liabilities come into play, and people tend to forget these things. What happens if that person did go through a psychotic break, right? If they had psychotic disorder, what happens if they did go through this transient possession? And you did something emergency and it cleared them, and that night you go home and then that night they kill themselves. Guess who's going to be reprimanded? It's going to be the person that did something over them. So you have to be careful. People forget these things.
Your alternative would be to say, I'm not qualified, I don't understand, I have not had a chance to assess the situation.
To physically get there.
Then if the person kills themselves, then you feel bad about that, but you're in the clear.
Well,
that's we're using a very extreme hypothetical.
Well, you have to.
Situation.
People are asking how to get rid of the demon, so people are interested in going to people's houses and helping people and and ridding demons of people. But people don't understand what they're dealing with when they get into people's houses. The dangers. Even if there was truly a demon involved, the steps that you have to go through to get to that.
Yeah, and often there's
point of
not
origin.
time to, and it doesn't apply or help everybody in every situation.
Like, I'm not saying the rite of exorcism is BS. I do, like I said, believe that demonic entities do exist. They are a very parasitical spirit entity that exists in some form or fashion.
I have encountered that.
I have
I know
counted
there's
it.
a genuine quality.
I've worked with psychotherapists who have worked on cases who I respect, one I deeply admire and respect, and worked with these people, and they have been kind of like, what is going on? So like,
Well, yeah,
when you're involved in those situations,
it's
like,
the element of the unexpected, of course. You
Yeah.
go into something like that, I know of. In fact, if I hint at it, you'll know which one I'm talking about. A séance that went wrong, and there was a cleric, there was a priest present, and he backed off. He didn't know what to do because you're not in an everyday situation. Although he was in that house,
and most clerics aren't trained
he
on
knew
that
what was going around.
level. Like if you ask most Catholic priests, like if you bring up a demon to them, they're like, you're crazy. Like if most people have that issue, they'll call their local diocese up and say, and this is, of course, it's not because they think they're crazy in the sense too, but they will say, are you seeking psychological help? And it's because in that same stance, if you are requesting help, if you want to rid yourself of a demon, if you believe you are dealing with a demon, and if we give you advice, we say, seek therapy, go seek a assessment. It's not because we think you're crazy.
Of course, that's supposed to be a first step, and a lot of people take umbrage to that when you say, have you been psychologically evaluated?
Yeah.
It's not offensive. It's just
not.
you are trying to help that person.
Because in the same situation,
through different avenues.
The same situation. I was talking about Hippocrates earlier. I want to roll back on him. I was going to say
you can't leave him alone.
Well, it was a paraphrase, a quote. You can't heal the sick if the sick doesn't want to be healed.
Yeah, if
right?
a sick person, you cannot heal a sick person if that person does not want to be healed.
So if you give
or accept help.
If they reach out to you and say, James Annitto and Carl Johnson, I need your help, and we say, okay, we'll help you.
You can say that, by the way.
Yeah, you can. Okay, we'll say, okay, but if we give you advice, and this is what you need to do for us to get involved in a physical way or to continue the process, and you say no, do you at that point really want help? And I can understand people that say, oh, well, I don't have insurance or I don't have the money to go see a therapist. Well, we do work with people and they might be willing to talk to you if you're willing to say yes. But you know how many times we say no because people don't want to hear what happens if they did go see somebody.
And that's not a popular thing to say, and it's not an easy thing to say.
What happens if they go see somebody and it wasn't a demonic entity they were dealing with? It was something like schizophrenia or bipolar that was caught, and once they take medication, it's all gone.
You may know afterwards. You may know in the aftermath, 20/20 in hindsight. By the way, do we have any comments or questions? Anybody we can give a shout out to? Oh, the list.
I can. Right now, we've got 23 people watching you. So how about if I just stick to the questions?
We have questions
now.
next.
There have been a few questions through the discussion. Let me roll back here. Paula Bergeron asks, I've always heard that some demons take the form of a child to mislead you. How do you tell the difference?
If they have black eyes, no whites to the eyes, black-eyed children.
Well,
that's an indication.
Yeah, well, demonic entity is, by theory, spiritual entity, so they never had physicality. So when they tend to manifest as a human apparition, there tends to be something like black eyes or something's
wrong, something's missing.
It's
not a perfect replication of a human being.
So you would notice that.
Yeah. Now I was kidding. This is approaching that humorously about the black-eyed children, but they've been reported.
They have, and
enough
have been
times
tied to those kind of cases.
To make one wonder what folks are seeing. No, there's something ultra-terrestrial. There's something that's not us, not of this world.
Definitely.
Not perfectly of this world.
But disfigurement, definitely. Disfigurement.
Yeah, if you got a gut feeling that something's wrong, and well, that would give me a gut feeling if they have no whites to their eyes. They're just glowing.
And in that same token, unless once you open the act of communication, there's invitation. So if you want to communicate to the child,
notice the child when it's these apparitions that they call the black-eyed children. The child always seeks an invitation. Isn't just you don't turn around and it's in your living room. They're at the door. trick or treat. No, they're at the door and they go, we're lost, or we need money to go to the movies, and you get a bad feeling. Can we come in?
Hmm.
Can you give us a ride in your car? Can we come into your house?
There always
It's
seems to
always
be an
an
active
invitation.
invitation. Yeah, yeah.
Now you mentioned the vampire. The vampire must receive an invitation,
Yes.
to come in, to enter.
Yeah. So it doesn't the demon with possession. That's why oppression occurs. That's why they oppress the person so that they can break their will and ascertain and assert themselves and possess the individual. The
There
whole
should be a
spot.
rule against that. I mean, a demon shouldn't be able to appear.
So
as a
imitation,
child. They can't, but
imitation
yeah,
is the key perception to all of
which
this.
connects to intention.
It does.
You have enabled this. You've asked it to come in. Yeah,
So that was a good question.
demons are powerful things in that they are persistent, but they always require an invitation.
Just like a parasite keeps going until it's neutralized, right?
You're describing a lot of my friends in 4th and 5th grade, actually.
So we have
They
another
always
And then,
question.
no, we'll go on to the next
Yeah.
question. Ruth Such asks, when Emily Rose was possessed by the 6 demons, what could have been done differently if that was in today's world?
So Emily Rose, am I assuming the movie, or is she talking about Annalise McKell, like the original, like the?
Which is based on the story of Annalise McKell,
Yes.
of course. Oh, well, we could say both. What could be done differently? In fact, I kind of overstepped my bounds in a sense in my book, Shadow Realms Demonology Handbook. I state that I could have possibly saved her. I felt I could have.
What, Annalise?
Yeah.
Well,
If I had been,
if you got her
if I-
medical help.
Well, I just would have persisted, and I would have made it more apparent what was
Mm.
happening to her, so it wasn't so
Oh.
isolated. In that sense, I could have.
She was so malnutrition.
opened it up.
So
It
malnutrition.
would depend on when it was addressed and
Yeah,
what
yeah.
stage during her crisis.
And you got to remember that case made exorcisms illegal and banned in Germany for
Yeah.
a very long time until most recently.
If I had access to her, I feel I could have done more. Maybe not me as an individual, but I could have opened this up and made people more aware of it.
Yeah. I think
So-
it definitely was handled wrong because of the situation where I believe that was the first modern adaptation of an exorcism being done in modern Germany. So,
Yeah, and it's
in
set
that
a
sense
precedent.
too, in that sense too, there was a lot done wrong with it. A lot done. And I don't know if the priest actually ever went to jail, but they definitely went to court for that. They were in a case.
Oh, I think one
think
did.
one did
it
good.
was like
Yeah.
less than 6 months,
But
it
still,
was
there's still the
the-
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if he was defrocked of his priesthood
I
afterwards.
don't
but,
think so. Usually,
no,
they.
because
no.
he did what he felt was right at the
Yeah.
time. But it was poorly understood, poorly addressed. It was too isolated. People weren't aware.
It's a
of it.
learning lesson.
We have another question.
There is one more question from Melanie James Cockrum. Do you believe demons can come through in lucid dreaming, as in a pack of hellhounds or something on a hunt for a doe or such?
Yes, I do believe they can come into dreams or cause nightmares. One of my things I talk about and don't like to talk about is how I was involved with the case. One of
I
my
know
demonic
which one you mean,
infestation
yeah.
cases. I talked about it before, where I had a nightmare of the physicality of the family, the physicality of the house. And mind you, I'd never seen people before. Never
Right.
seen their house, never seen what they looked like. I had this nightmare, and in the nightmare, I killed every single one of them.
That's some nightmare.
But when I physically got there, I seen the house and I seen the family.
You'd seen it in the dream.
And it was 100% to similar to what the dream was.
That's
That's
suggests
crazy. So it's
demonic presence.
definitely. But I think a lot of the times where we have dreams of demons, it's because of something negative that happened in our life, and it's a coping mechanism for the human or mind.
Coping mechanism.
Where we have these nightmares or dreams about these evil forces because that's what we can relate to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they can. I had a very vivid dream. Oh, you could call it a lucid dream because I was aware that I was in a dream state. And I saw 2 demons, and they didn't resemble any concept that I had, any conception that I would have had of what a demon would look like. And there were 2 of them, and they were very disturbing. And in the final analysis, it was a dream, but I was pretty much awake when it was happening.
And then
So I have to wonder.
One tip for people that have dreams about these things. This actually was on a show, but this is something you can actually do. Hypnotists actually talk about it. on the show Evil on CBS, I believe it was, or ABS, ABC, CBS, ABS. That's the name of the channel. CBS.
Maybe you get
Yeah,
that.
right.
You're getting
It's a
some
spe- it's a
wicked good
special
programming on that.
On CBS Evil. One of the things that was told to do in a dream state was put something on your arm when you go to bed, and if it's in the dream, that means it's a dream. If it's not, so if it's on your arm in the dream, that means you're dreaming.
Yeah.
If it's not on there, that means it's So in a way, you can cancel yourself out of the dream. Sorry, I totally messed that up. If the watch is not
That's okay,
in the dream,
We'll edit it out.
if the watch of the band's not in the dream, it's a dream. If
Yeah.
you go to bed with something on and it's not in there in the dream, then you're in a dream.
Right.
That means you can pull yourself out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I messed that up. But
No,
yeah,
I mean-
it's a true way. So if you have those issues a lot, put something on your arm before bed, and in that dream, if you don't notice it, then
If you have the presence of mind to even
Yeah.
look to see if you have that on your wrist.
well, some people do in those kind of
In the dream.
situations. Yeah.
Yeah. We have something else.
We do have another question from Barry Martz. Question: I've heard that if a given exorcism is successful, is the demon sent back to hell, or will the demon seek somewhere else right away? I've heard that hell is the worst place to be. Even demons don't like it.
No, I think the demon's going to go after other prey and try to, I wasn't successful here, but I've got to find something else. I got to find some other repository. Yeah, I think it'll fly to something else. It may have to go dormant for a time, but it will resurface.
Yeah, I think in the same token,
I'm speaking metaphysically here, of course.
Yeah, speaking metaphysically as well, I think that if an exorcism is successful and that person is cleansed of this possession, then their life has to change as well. Their mindset has to change. They have to maybe have a life of faith and try to know a lot of the negative things that are in their life. Somebody that was very, of course, his name is known through certain books, but Robbie or Roland Doe, however you want to interpret, the person that was based on The Exorcist, he changed his life, and he seems to still be cleansed of it because he still goes to church. He still does all these things that empower his mind. I truly believe, like you said, they are a predator. And most predators, until they like a lion or something like that, until you chase them off or until you unfortunately take their life, they'll keep going after their prey. So
they follow their instinct.
So
they follow their program.
I still think with the demonic entity, if you expel them, if this person doesn't change their ways, that the ability for this demonic entity to intertwine back into their life is easy.
Well, the holy remedy would be to,
bring God into your life.
Yes, one cannot be invaded if they are filled with the
Holy Spirit.
With the Holy Spirit, yeah. If they are an empty vessel, then they are vulnerable. If they have filled themselves with the Holy Spirit, the Holy presence.
But it's changing their mindset. That's having faith. So if you're a person that dealt with possession, you're an atheist or agnostic, and you did drugs and you did all these negative things in your life and asserted yourself with negative people, you have to change that lifestyle. Because if you don't, guess what's going to just come right back? All that trauma, all these things that happen, and possibility of this entity.
You just want to make it. If you feel that there is a demon plaguing you, you want to make that environment unpleasant for the demon. Yeah. They wouldn't want to stick around. If you have friends around you, if you have distractions, you have positive reinforcement. If you have a faith, and if you take precautions against the demon, you do the things that are traditionally supposed to ward the demon, keep it away, then it's probably not going to stick around long because it's going to go to easier prey.
Yeah, and in a psychotherapy sense, this is called a therapeutic alliance. Usually this alliance is basically trying to get everybody on a positive mindset reinforcement and change this person's outlook. And I definitely also think too, if you truly dealt with a demonic force, it doesn't cancel you out going to talk to a therapist to get over what you went through. Because to me, if I dealt with a demonic entity, if I was possessed by this force, that's a traumatic experience, and you want to get over that trauma.
You know what I've done that's been effective when somebody's come to me for counseling, not that I'm degreed in this counseling, but when somebody's come to me as a demonologist, my capacity as a demonologist, and they say they're being oppressed, this thing is always after them, they're starting to feel it in the car next to them, they see it in the mirror. I'll start them talking, and then I'll get into a story or something and get a laugh.
Mm.
And they'll say, you want to go out and get something to eat while we talk about this? Yeah, and within an hour, the person's kind of laughing and,
They
joking
forget all
around.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's going to come back, but I'll say, how did you feel during the last couple of hours? You feel better? See, it's not with you every second.
No.
That shows that they need positive reinforcement. You got to have friends around them.
Well, yeah, if you look at oppression, and this has a lot to do with how you get rid of demons, because to get rid of it, I really truly believe it's a mind over matter, and of course, there's things intertwined within that as well. But you have to keep up on track, and this is why we call it maintenance. We usually give things to do, and of course, faith's powerful. So you definitely, if you want to incorporate something that changes your mindset, gets you away from those negative things you do, because like you said, a lot of the times that we deal with people that maybe are truly dealing with demonic force, and I definitely believe I have come across far and few between, but those cases there was trauma, and once that person was able to get away from that trauma, they were also able to get separation from this parasitical force.
Right. Now let's see if we have another question.
We have a few questions. We have 7 minutes left to the hour, and I'll give you the short one first. Candace asks, are black-eyed children real?
People who have seen them say they're real. Yeah, they're real. I think so. I think people have had encounters with these black-eyed children. They're rare, but yeah, I think so. What they are, they're some kind of form. They're probably related to the shadow ghost, the shadow person. Yeah, they're some kind of ultra-terrestrial. They're, in a classic sense, a demon. Yeah, I think they're real. I've heard it from people.
I think there is enough interpretation of people's experiences with them. I've never physically experienced it, so
I don't think I'd forget it if I did.
I think there's too many people that dealt with it to say it's not possible.
Too many to say it's not possible. Yeah.
We have another question from Father Thomas Newsom. How are Ouija boards different than spirit boxes, particularly when it comes to with whom they may or may not facilitate contact?
There's not much difference except in the contraption itself.
Yeah.
They're both forms of spirit communication. And one of my sayings is, when is a seance not a seance? When you call it something else.
Yeah. Well,
an EVP session or something.
I agree to disagree. I think I've always used that same formula.
You're very agreeable in that way.
Well, I think communication is the agreement where the communication is.
Well, how it's your approach. Are you like looking to experiment to confirm a spirit presence, or you just want to, see if they, you can get in touch with the spirit? Spirit box and a Ouija, one has, it seems more like a device, has electronics. Involved, enabling the spirit. It's a step up from the Ouija board. It seems a little more.
Well, one's using EMF, electronic, magnetic radiation.
In that sense, it's a little more scientific.
And the divination tool uses, why it's called the divination tool uses.
Depends on the man. Intrinsically, the value. There's, if a Ouija board is wrong, then a spirit box is wrong. If they're both just experiments to communicate, one could also cite that with a spirit board, you're surrendering part of your body.
What you are. You are.
There's that.
That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of it.
Spirit box is more detached, but you're still communicating with spirit or attempting to.
Yeah, but there's a difference. The point of seance is, most people in a seance would interjoin fingers, interjoin some body part as a reflection. This is my energy. Use my energy in communication.
It's hard to use both at the same time.
And that's what. But that's what the spirit. But a spirit board, of course, the planchette.
Turn that thing off, please.
But if you have multiple people on the planchette, you're all interjoined on the planchette. The whole point of a divination tool, and especially in spiritualism, is that you are the one giving out the energy for the spirit to communicate. Or
which would you rather use, though?
I would rather use. I'd rather use a spirit box, because in the form of fashion, I'm not giving my body up. I'm not asking the spirit to use my energy. I'm asking spirit to use the EMF, the general EMF in the atmosphere that is has radiation.
Spirit board's more eerie.
It is. It's more suspenseful,
and therefore that's more of a draw. But
I think you're more gullible with a spirit board than a spirit box, and I don't like spirit boxes.
Well, the spirit box, you're going to get quick results.
I'm not a big fan of both.
The planchette may take a while to move. It may be sluggish. You're always wondering if the other person is
And I think,
unless you really know your
I
partner.
think also too,
You know, is pushing it.
I also think too, an assessment, if you are trying to approach in a scientific method of which one to use in a sense of form of communication, a spirit box has a more of an ability to be accurate than the spirit board as well, because once again, I talked about alien hand syndrome. There are other
Yeah.
syndromes where you might, through perception and suspense, move the planchette
Not meaning to.
and not meaning to. And everybody shared that you did not move it, but guess what? In reality, guess what? There's been scientific studies where they film people using spirit boards, and guess what? They seen them moving it, and they had no recollection they moved it. So this happens.
Well, yeah, it's a very subtle thing because you're almost not touching it. You know, like you get these little impulses and all that.
Guess what
you have to be the conduit.
And guess what I did last week? And this is not to throw anybody
You
off. I think
a spirit board.
I think sometimes there's legitimacy to it. But guess what I did last week? I tipped the table without a spirit.
Yeah, you did that.
I did it through just magnetism and gravitation, gravitational fields.
That gravitational force. I've heard good things about that.
So you just got to remember what you perceive in that. I think the spirit box. There are ways that it could be more perceived and maybe connected to the paranormal.
Maybe we should bring in our friend John Huntington and one of his devices he's been improving, working on, have him demonstrate the spirit box. Another question. I don't want to run out of time for it.
Yeah, another
I
question.
just want to let you know we only have one question left here by Kaysen. With the state of the world today, what extra precautions do you suggest when taking on clients?
All wear masks.
Wear your mask.
Well,
Wear your
it's
mask.
not a cure-all,
Wear
but
it out.
it's something. But today, yeah, it's more complex. The world seems topsy-turvy now. Have a more extensive, involved interview with the person. Don't have a cursory, just talk. Find out if somebody comes to you with a problem, a spiritual problem, try to get at the root of it. When did it start? When did you start hearing this? Or where did you start feeling this? Just be more careful and more candid about the interview. I don't mean invasive. Just be more thorough in the interview. Your initial encounter with that person. And talk it over more than you might have before. Under other circumstances.
I definitely agree with that, because if you look at an interview process with a job, right?
Yeah.
Your first interview is either you make it or break it usually.
They can be your first impressions.
Your first impression. So it's the same token. You want to try to compile as much
With
information.
our remaining time, we want to mention a few of our upcoming events.
All right, that's all right. You can cut me off. It's cool.
I'm sorry. I don't want to, but
But no, yes, I definitely agree.
But I have to cut you off because nobody's going to hear me if I don't.
Nah, nobody wants to hear you. I'm just kidding. I love you. But no, seriously though, definitely be careful in this world.
Yeah.
You have to be careful what you say, what you do.
Very much so.
And
more so now than even like 3 years ago.
Approach from many different angles. Work with many different specialists. It won't hurt you. If you want to call yourself an investigator, do what an investigator does.
Yeah,
Approach
good
many
point.
different things.
Excellent.
But yeah, Carl, take us out.
Some of the things.
Bird song.
Well, what's going to be happening? Now this something that's coming up fairly soon. Before you know it, the date is 10/10/2020, October 10th, 2020, in Quincy, Massachusetts. It's dry dock the USS Salem, ship that is believed, this battleship, and is believed to be haunted. I've been on it, and it is haunted, and you've been on it, and it is haunted.
And I've had experiences yet, and it actually was the biggest battleship in the Navy at one point in time. So that's pretty.
It has
cool.
that distinction, and it is also going to be the forum for duo demonology on October 10th, 2020. We are going to double host that event.
Yep.
Invite people in, and we are going to have paranormal investigation. Are we going to do the two teams and all that?
So
How are we going to approach
So
that?
I think what we're going to do with the USS Salem, I think where I think we are going to do our best to attempt communication. We're going to throw many different avenues at that ship.
It'll be unique. I can tell you,
It'll
it's
be
nothing
unique.
that's been done there before.
And other than like the podcast, which is a discussion, we will actually be as well doing a demonology lecture, a lecture where we actually will lecture about certain specific topics instead of discuss. Where also Q&A will be involved. And if you are interested, there are only like 10 tickets left.
Yeah,
So they're going like gangbusters.
What about in our thing in New York? Is that so? Should I mention that? Is that sold out?
It's not sold out, it's for free.
Yeah,
So you can talk about it, yeah, it's not, it's, as far as I know, there's still spots.
yeah. The Ghost Magnets with a Twist is presenting. They're gonna
Yeah, and when is
escape.
that?
That is going to be September 14th, which is actually, what day of the week is that? Like a Monday?
It's on a Monday in
Yeah.
Fishkill, New
New
York, right?
So, yeah. So that's, unique that, it's,
40
it
people.
will open it up to some people who can better make it on a, the limit, the cap is 40 people at this
Yeah.
time.
And in
And
New England
some
right
people
now,
can make it better on a Monday
Yeah.
than they might on a busy Saturday or Sunday.
Mhm.
Then jumping way ahead till next year,
Next year.
Mass Paracon, which had to be
September.
canceled this year, September of 2021.
September 18th, 2021.
September 18th. There's going to be an event of some magnitude. It is the roundtable discussion demonology panel.
It is, and dinner,
Dinner. You got to feed people. They're not going to care about what you think.
which the
Yeah.
ticket will be announced, it's probably this September, probably the year.
It's
year
not too
ahead.
soon to mention this, though.
It's not,
It's not, we're promoting it and making people aware of it.
definitely,
September 18th, 2021.
yes.
And where's this going to be held? What?
Quincy, Massachusetts, at the
Again,
Best
Quincy.
Best Western out in Quincy, near the water. And as of right now, we have a room for the panel, but we might be switching to a beautiful rotunda where we can truly make it a true round
It's
table.
upstanding, yeah. So this is actually going to be a panel discussion, and it's going to center on demonology. We're going to have a multifaceted, different speakers,
With
different,
nine
panelists.
with 9 demonologists from all different
the
backgrounds.
Council of Nine. Yeah.
Well, there could be a 10th. Might have a further announcement. We'll see.
We'll
But
keep you posted.
we have 9 demonologists of 100+ years of experience. If I remember, if I combine everybody's experience, we're close to 200 years of experience within the field of demonology. That's a lot of
Now
experience.
I'm contributing a lot of that portion
yeah.
right there.
You and your brother are 100 years right there.
Yeah.
You old bastards, you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of experience that goes into that. Keith and I have
Oh, you
exactly the same amount.
Oh, you guys are legends.
Oh,
you got to give you that.
Thank you.
But
Thank
you
you.
guys are definitely going to be the huge parts of that demonology panel with your combined experience.
Having said that, we're going to have to pull the curtain down on tonight's episode, lest they get weary of us speaking.
Definitely.
Maybe that's not possible. So
And hopefully we created some discussion for you on how to get rid of a demon. We might have not answered the way you wanted to answer.
I could have gone on for another hour just talking about, like how this is applied in different cultures, how different, and how individuals could apply this.
Right, definitely. Maybe
like
a part
getting
2
rid
one
of a
day.
demon. It can be done. Don't ever think it's impossible to banish a demon.
Yeah, this is a topic. This topic that we've studied for a long time that we still have.
You call us, obviously, we'll keep you on the phone. I got a lot to say.
Most definitely. So good night, everybody. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you so
And
much.
make
Yeah.
sure that you buy the tickets. We'll post a link on it. It's on Eventbrite. So if you look at Eventbrite, Hunting the Sea Witch, October 10th, 2020.
Yeah. And
Comes-
so seek us out. We're not hard to find. Duo Demonology.
Yep.
James Annitto,
Carl
Carl
Johnson.
Johnson.
And at least Marco Carlson,
She's there still.
our
Oh,
manager.
Goodbye. Good night.
Bye, everybody.